Welcome back to a very special holiday episode of EVObsession. I'm your host, the Joe Boris. For 2024, I'm giving up pronouns, and I'm here as ever with CleanTechnica CEO, my beloved co-host, Zachary Shahan. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I can't believe less than a week to Christmas. My mind is blowing up. It's like, whoa.
Less than a week to Christmas and less than a week since Hanukkah. So, like, we're right there in that sweet spot of what freaking holiday is it?
What the
To each their own, man. This is a judgment-free zone. But one place that apparently is not a judgment-free zone is the European Union
this
because
this was a judgment-free zone until like now.
a second ago,
Now,
right?
now judgments are gonna be flying left and right.
Oh yeah. So this is I've always maintained this that like Tesla drivers are not like they're like the new age BMW drivers. But this has been something that is really impressive that a wide-reaching survey in the European Union has
In
found
the
that
US. Why are you talking about European Union?
oh, this is in the US. Yeah. Has found that
Unless
Tesla
the original Spanish says something else and they translate
yeah,
in the
right.
US, yeah.
Well, no, so this was originally so this I gave you a different link. This was an EU study that linked to this study. So now we
Oh,
have
so the
in the
EU is
EU
using this study.
to launch another study exactly.
Ooh, an
So
investigation, I would say. Yeah.
right. So
Yeah.
apparently Tesla drivers, despite the fact that they claim autopilot is the safety feature and they've got all these different things, Tesla drivers have the most accidents like per capita than any other type of car driver. And I absolutely believe that.
Well, I would say two things. One is I doubt this is related to autopilot, which is very good. And as Tesla has shown, their drivers get in a lot fewer accidents on autopilot. I do agree that this is probably very related to what you mentioned about the new BMW drivers. I think a lot of people went from BMW to Tesla. A lot of people became a different kind of driver. Went from Honda Civics to Teslas. Went from Toyota Pri, that's the plural of Prius, by the
Yeah,
way,
yeah,
to
pre-I, yeah, for
Teslas.
sure.
And I mean, there's no secret about it. I mean, one of the draws was the insane acceleration. People show off the insane acceleration every time you show off the car to someone new. It's something we rave about as Tesla drivers. Like it's so great, the instant torque, the how quick these cars are. I have the slowest Tesla on the market, and I think it's should be barely legal. And and
Right.
I think the fastest ones, the quickest ones, I legitimately do not think should be like on normal roads. Like they're just too quick. But I mean it's fine, whatever, freedom and all that. But I
Freedom.
think I think there's definitely it's not surprising to me. I mean, it is surprising in the sense that I had never seen this before as a new study, as far as I'm aware. But not it's not shocking. It's a study from Lending Tree, by the way, um, and it's conducted between November last year and November 14th of this year. So it's a fresh study. I mean, there's stories of there was someone not far from me. I don't know the person, but he had just gotten a Tesla Model S Plaid. He and his buddy went out to test it. And one of the biggest things is that people don't realize the braking is really what's important. Not how fast you can get up to 100, but how fast you can get down from 100. And apparently
Right.
they like flew onto the top of a house or something. And I
What?
think the friend who I believe was driving the car did not die, but the brand new owner did die. But it's just a
Oh my
case of,
gosh.
yeah, it really hit me. I was like, and it's just, there are, I think, more of those kinds of stories than we realize, or in the case of people not dying, there's plenty of stories probably of Tesla drivers driving like crazy people because they can and getting into accidents. So I don't know. I mean, it's unfortunate. I don't think it's autopilot related, but I understand if that's why the EU is if the EU is using this as a reason to investigate autopilot more, I guess that makes sense. Um, but um,
Well, I
but I
think
think
the
it's more of a case of
idea
people's behavior. in a
I agree
Tesla.
completely. It's a case of people's behavior, but I think the idea in mentioning autopilot is that it is an ADAS system and it's supposed to be one of the more advanced ADAS systems. But unlike the systems like the automatic braking, in automatic braking and early warning type sirens and notifications and warning bells that other systems have,
Well, they have the
it doesn't.
automatic braking.
Yeah, but that's
It's
what
a
I'm saying. It's
separate.
like, but they, whatever it is that they're doing, it's not doing the job. And maybe that's completely because of driver behavior. I'm willing to accept that. But I think at the end of the day, it is worth investigating why a car that advertised, maybe not advertises, that's the wrong word for Tesla, but a car that calls itself super safe and the safest car ever tested, et cetera, and a car that claims to have so many safety features, it is curious why this car that puts safety front and center supposedly is attracting drivers who keep getting into accidents. Maybe they know they're bad drivers and that's why they need a car as safe as the Tesla.
That's another potential of a great sociological study. Yeah, and the automatic braking, the features that are built into every Tesla that you don't have to pay for. Many people have raved about how they've saved their lives. Mostly, they'll have video clips of like bad drivers trying to like almost hitting them, or their car saving them without them seeing why until after the fact. But in any case, those things are helpful, but I think there's a massive, there's a they're always tickling you to drive, to step on the pedal and drive faster. The handling is great on the Model 3, even the Model Y, or the Model S. And you think you can have you can drive, you think you're invincible sometimes perhaps, but are pushing the car to limits you never pushed any of your previous cars. So I think it's yeah, not surprising. So we can just quickly note number 2 is Ram on that list, right below Tesla's Ram.
Again,
Su
none of these surprise
Subaru
me.
shocks me. I'm curious why Subaru, because I was like, Subaru.
Oh,
I
I
thought
can
these
tell
were
you
like the
why.
most
I can
cautious, conservative.
absolutely, no, not even close. Subaru has the same problem that Tesla has, which is they are being purchased by people who don't understand cars.
Hmm.
Tesla people, I think it's largely a maintenance issue. I think a lot of these cars that are having accidents probably have shocks that are worn out. They're probably on bald tires. They're probably being, a little crazy with the accelerator. I think a lot of that can be, put down to driver error. You've got people who, as you pointed out, they've never driven anything fast and suddenly they've got 700 or 500 horsepower. That's a problem. Subaru is very, very similar. All of the Subarus come with all-wheel drive, and there is, especially in the Midwest, in the Northeast, in the Pacific Northwest, where you have bad weather, you have a lot of snow, there is some idea out there that you can just get behind the wheel of a four-wheel drive car and drive it just like you would drive in the summer and not have to adjust the way you drive at all. And
Oh, I
that's how
can
you end
see
up in a
that.
ditch.
I can see that because my greatest exposure to Subarus was when I was in college and I did 6 months up in Ithaca, New York, in a kind of yeah, program. And like Subarus are not really a thing much down here in Florida. They were like people were obsessed with them up there in upstate New
Yep.
York, and a lot of people had them, and they raved about, yeah, how they're great for driving in the snow. So it's like, again, like exactly what you're saying. It could lead people thinking they're better than they are. And I mean, there's more deer up there where they drive. I don't know, but yeah, the icy roads, the deer. I'm not that makes some sense. And down on, we won't talk anymore about this, but down at the bottom there, this is a translation from a Spanish website, so that's the number 10 brand is not Sling, it's Honda. But
It's
yeah,
Honda.
yeah.
So, but let's look at that list again.
Oh,
I don't
sure.
see anything surprising on that list. Like Mazda, zoom, zoom. Yeah, man, you're going to crash. Lexus has the worst infotainment system in the business. If you try to change the radio station on your Lexus, I'm surprised you're still on the road. Volkswagen, I mean, that's kind of surprising. But again, you've got a lot of all wheel drive stuff. You've got a lot of people who are, oh, I love VW. BMW, no surprise at all.
BMW would
Toyota,
be much higher on the list if Tesla didn't exist. That's
yeah,
what I
exactly.
would bet money on it, and get a time machine or whatever.
100%. BMW, Infinity, this is a lot of times the same guy. You've got a G35. Everybody thinks it's a Nissan Skyline. They try to drive it like an R35. It ain't built for that. And then Honda, and again, you get a lot of sporty young guys, a lot of people who are
Yeah.
not doing the maintenance. Maybe they change the oil, they change the brake pads, but they're not looking at the shocks. They're not checking the bushings. They're not working on the steering arms.
We should say Joe's
All that stuff.
beloved Volvo and his Hyundai are not on the list. But yeah,
Accurate.
let's move to some other lists. So we wrote about, I hope we talked about the US EV sales report last week. We did that, right? Last week.
Sure.
I created the EV sales report. Now I'm like, whoa, wait a second. Did we talk about that?
Yeah, we
I
did.
think,
We're
yeah,
fine.
we did.
We're
We
good.
did. Okay. So after that, a commentator was asking me to also create the charts and rankings for auto groups, auto brands. And I was like, yeah, why am I not doing that? So I went out and created a whole new article and report with a bunch of charts on this. And we'll just go through them a bit. So first of all, just share of the US EV market. Yeah, I remember talking about how the Model 3 and Model Y combined for 50% share. And your question was like, when do you think the rest of the market passes Tesla? And we've gotten really close to that point. So yeah, it might be even first or second quarter of next year. But you can see how the rest of the market breaks out. So Ford has 7.1%, Hyundai 5.7%, Chevy 5.4%, and Rivian 5.3% to close out the top five. And then you have sort of trailing off. But impressive kind of results there from Ford and Hyundai
Yeah.
and even Rivian and Chevy. But that's only one way to look at it. So that's like their share of the EV market, BEV market. But I was curious, especially what's their share of their own sales being electric, being fully electric. So what percentage of their own sales is it, if it's 1 out of 10 Audi sales are electric, that would be 10%.
Right.
So 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 just want to make sure this is clear because it's not a share of the EV market, but a share of
No,
their own
it's the share of
sales.
their sales. So
It was a
12% of
big
Audi.
struggle to create titles for these charts and like how do I make this clear so I don't have, but I hope it's clear.
It's
So
clear enough. It's fine.
okay, so Audi and Volkswagen lead the chart here. So they are selling they have the highest percentage of their sales being electric. And I think it's a little surprising, but it shows how serious Volkswagen Group is
Yeah.
about pushing EVs. And then you've got Mercedes and Porsche and Volvo,
Yeah. Well, and
premium
again,
brands.
Porsche is part of that VW group. So they're
Yeah,
they're above 10% with every brand.
yeah. But I mean, if you look at the top six, these are premium brands. Volkswagen is not, and it's not in Europe. It's not even really in the US, but it's sort of seen as one in the US. But yeah, so you've got Volkswagen Group, maybe not. I don't know. You got Volkswagen Group and premium brands, which are
Yeah.
leading the charge.
But that makes sense. That's who can afford to buy brand new cars, right? You're always going to have that, I think, for a little bit. Even the Kia, the EV6, that's a premium product. That's a top shelf vehicle. I think what's really interesting here, and I just want to point this out, is when you look at this is BEV only. Volvo has one pure BEV model right now in the US, which is the C40. The EX30 is not out. The EX90 is not out. However, the 90.5% of Volvos that are not BEVs being sold on the street right now, they are hybrids. Every single Volvo is a hybrid, except for the ones that are BEVs. So,
Oh, but plug-in hybrids or
well, there's a mix. There's a
there's a
mix
mix.
of
Yeah.
the recharge models are plug-in
But you know,
hybrids.
Joe, that a non-plug-in hybrid is dead to us.
I know that it's dead to you, but the reality is they're the
Joe,
most
don't go down that
electrified.
road.
Oh yes, they're the most electrified brand. They sell more. They sell, I think, more hybrid models than Toyota does.
I think you can say they're the most electrified brand because Audi's got nothing beyond the 12.7 BEV sales. They're
No,
not
they've
they're
got
not
they
they're not
don't really
pushing
have. No, they're not pushing plug-in hybrids or anything like that.
or conventional hybrids
No, by
even.
2025, Volvo is going to be 100% electric. They're going to be the first legacy brand, I think, to transition to full electric.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing it shoot up the chart there because I think it can and will. But also, I mean, Porsche has been higher in the past, and it's got a very compelling electric model coming out in 2024. So I think Porsche is gonna be a Porsche and Volvo might be the real challengers up there. I found it interesting because I see a lot of Mercedes EVs, like I said the other day, last week. I see a lot of Mercedes EVs now, like just a lot popping up, like out of nowhere. It seems like there was like one here and there, like every week or two. I'd see it like a couple months ago. Now I see them every day. I think the Mercedes is doing a good job, not just selling them, but I think pushing them probably. I think the dealerships might really be. I need to go visit one, do secret shopper thing and be like, see what happens. Like, oh, I'm looking for a good Mercedes. I mean, they'll probably like scope me out and be like, oh, it looks like a young techie. We'll push him into an EV.
I love how you still think you look young. I think
Oh, Joe.
that's
Oh,
so
man.
sweet.
I don't think I look young necessarily, but considering most buyers here are like 70 and have white hair, I think I
Accurate.
look
But
young to a
you're
dealer.
rolling up in a Tesla. They might think
No, I would
something.
try to hide the Tesla.
Now you got to roll up in a Tesla because they haven't figured out that they're only 20 grand yet.
No, but I'm definitely curious how they're approaching. Same with Audi and Volkswagen. Those three, Porsche is sort of special case. Volvo, as we already talked about, they're yeah. But I'm curious, like, are they just willing? And a lot of people are like, oh, I was sort of thinking about a Tesla, and then they show them their EVs, or are they actually like someone walks in the door and they're being like, hey, have you considered an electric car? I don't know. Or if it's just the word of mouth is so strong now in that community,
I will say
rich
this.
people community I'm speaking of.
Sure. I will say this. If you're a good salesperson, you are listening to what the buyer, or let's say
Mm,
customer, because they're not a buyer yet, you are listening to the person and trying to understand their needs, and you are not recommending anything. You are simply asking and through discovery finding what's going to suit their needs. And if somebody comes in and says, I'm interested in an EV, if you're smart, you're going to show them EVs. If you're an idiot, you're going to try to talk them out of it. The only possible reason that a salesperson might have to try to talk you out of an EV is if they don't have one. But when you get to Audi, when you get to Volkswagen, not even Volkswagen, when you get to Audi, you get to Mercedes, you get to Porsche, certainly Volvo, you get a different class of salespeople. I met some guys over at a Honda store in Chicago, and by the time I parked and got my phone disconnected and got out of the car, there were three sales guys standing at the front door waiting to, let's say, accost me, right? And they were all going to start talking to me about this and that. One guy was like, oh, is that the new Banana Republic jacket? Which, like,
mm.
it was, but that was kind of a weird way to lead in. But it was better than, hi, can I help you? So I was like, all right, I'll talk to this guy. Beckham, cool dude, nice guy. But that said, you would,
You think
it's
he's
never,
watching? You think he's actually watching you now, Joe? I'm just
you know
kidding.
what, man? I don't know who listens or
I'm
reads or
just kidding.
anything.
All right.
But
All
I
right.
will say this, I'll email it to him. So that's
Okay.
one.
All
And
right.
number two, I think you do get a better class of salespeople, a better trained salesperson at a premium brand, because that's expected. You're
Yeah,
expected to have product knowledge. You're
makes sense.
expected to be a professional. And the people who are hiring over there, they understand that you're going to be talking to doctors and lawyers and accountants and things like that. You're not going to be typically dealing with, like,
Joe
bricklayers
Dirt.
and equipment operators. Yeah, exactly. So it's a little bit more polished. I think if you go into a Chevy store, the guy, you say, hey, I'd like to buy a Chevy Bolt. That's a $23,000 car with a bunch of discounts on it. They're going to try to upsell you into a $50,000 Suburban. That's what I would do.
All right. Well, I'm happy we
Instantaneous. I wouldn't even
synchronize our
question
light
it.
shirt outfits today. This
We
is
did.
fitting. And
Well, you've got your tree. I've got my
well, my
birthday
tree is
tree.
looking so gray and sad now with that. Your tree is so green and fake, but it's like, it's real, but it's fake. But anyway, yeah, I would say that what disappointed me here was Ford and Chevy, which again, if you go back to the share of EV sales, Ford is up there at number two, Chevy's number four.
Yeah.
And I was a little disappointed. I mean, I've done this before, I've seen this before, but it surprised me nonetheless. Like, oh man, they're still so low, 4.4, 3.5%. Like this is sad. So a little disappointed in them. GMC and Toyota. and Mazda, which Mazda's on here because it actually sells some, brands that don't have any EVs are not on here.
Right.
So there's a bunch of zeros, but
Mazda
Mazda's on here because
offers
it
an
has an
EV,
EV
they
and
don't
it sold
sell
like
it.
25 of them. It's so
Yeah.
bad.
GMC
Oh,
has the Hummer.
I
That's
have the
it.
total 34. It's 34 of them it sold.
Well, it's not bad. What's a Zevo?
Uh this is new on the GM thing, so I wonder if this is the Bright Drop thing. I need to look into it because it just popped up on the quarterly GM. Like GM puts all
That
the
is the
brands.
Bright Drop. Yes, it is. It's the Bright
Yeah,
Drop
so I figured it
Zevo.
had to be Bright Drop because they just bought it, but I was never familiar with the name Zevo, or if I was, I kicked it out of my memory bank. This is if you break down the US EV market by auto group instead of auto brand, and it's not that much different. But you have Hyundai Kia jump up to number 2, and Volkswagen Groups is there at 3rd. So you have a little bit of a, but I really can't get over the percentage of their own shares now. So I don't even want to, I'm just like,
I think it's
it
crazy
angers
because,
me to look at this now.
yeah, but if you look
But
at the total auto market, Ford, Toyota, and GM are 1, 2, and 3. Tesla is way down. They're around like Porsche or Volvo in terms of total volume of the
yeah,
overall
and if you
market.
look at them on here, they're like the worst. Toyota, GM, well, I mean, Ford's in the middle. I mean, Ford is the hero in that big group, and you're like, you're just at 4.4%, but I don't know. It's depressing. But this is the same thing we were just talking at length about, the BEV share of auto groups US sales. So here's where Volkswagen Group rises
Yeah.
to the top. Mercedes, Geely, and then you've got Hyundai Kia. So I don't know. Ford is middle of the pack.
Subaru and Toyota should be merged.
Oh, really? Subaru's part of Toyota Motor Car?
It's happening. Mazda too. It's all happening. So Toyota Credit has purchased Subaru and Mazda's captive financing. The
Okay.
Subaru BEVs are now riding on Toyota platforms. A lot of the Subarus have Toyota variants, or a lot of the Toyotas have Subaru variants, however you want to call that. And they're becoming more and more
Intertwined, sort of like the Hyundai
intertwined.
Kia deal, where it's like,
Exactly right. They're becoming very much more intertwined. And if you've got a Mazda right now and you're making payments on it, you're sending checks to Toyota Motor Credit. So it's getting weird out there, kids.
Well, that's that. I mean, I think we should give a little bit of applause, a little congratulations to Volkswagen Group, Mercedes, and Geely for leading the way in the US market despite not being forced to.
Hi, my name is Scott Cooney. I started CleanTechnica to promote clean energy and other sustainable alternatives, and for 13 years we've been moving markets. If we had a nickel for every time someone told us they bought their first EV, solar, e-bike, or fill in the blank clean energy solution, we'd be a cable TV channel by now. But we don't get those nickels. So unfortunately, we could use your help to reach a few more people. If just 1% of our audience chipped in a few bucks a month, we could hire dozens of great journalists and promote all sorts of climate solutions. It's easy. Just go to cleantechnica.com/support and sign up with a credit card in seconds. Cancel anytime. But we'll be sending out some cool perks too, so I think you'll want to stick around. With your support, we'll keep leading the charge. Thank you so much.
This is the overall US auto industry. So compared to last year, sales are up in the US 16%. They're up 16% compared to 2021. Very slight difference there. And they're down still compared to Q3 2019. So if you see other reports on this, they'll talk about sales being up 16, 17%, depending on their data, compared to last year. But no one's going back to 2019 except for me. Pre-COVID. I love looking at the pre-COVID. So pre-COVID, we're still down 8%. Any commentary?
Well, I think it's worth noting, you've got so many people talking about, oh, EVs demand has plateaued. EVs aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. I thought EVs were, dude, the overall market is down 8% and EV sales continue to grow. That's all you got to say. Outperforming the market. Thanks for playing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think it's kind of depressing that 2019 was the last normal year any of us will ever experience, and it was 5 years ago.
Yeah, I 100% with you.
All right,
I'm
let's
starting
move
to hate
on.
doing these reports because I'm
Yeah.
like, how long ago was that? Like, what the heck? What happened in my life?
Oh, that was one I was like,
Mercedes,
oh,
you
I wrote
sold
an
me a.
article about this a while back, and it was in 2016, and I was like,
Oh yeah, no, there's so many like, oh, we covered them 10, 15 years ago. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, so US here's the chart by brand for Q3 2023 compared to Q3 2019, which I found the most interesting and fun to look at. So here, of course, Tesla's up 229%. Chrysler is up, and Porsche. We talked about Chrysler before being up. Like, this is a little bit like mind-blowing. I'm like, what is going on with Chrysler? But also you have Kia and Hyundai are doing well, Mazda's doing well, Volvo's doing well. Sort of brands that we highlight especially a lot, Hyundai, Volvo, and Kia.
yeah.
And Porsche here and there is just it's such a premium brand.
We
But
don't talk enough about Mazda, but they have really stepped up their game. If you were driving a 2018, Mazda 3 or CX-5, and you go into the showroom today and see what they're selling and see what they're offering, it is such a massive leap from where they were just 5 or 10 years ago. The same is true of Hyundai, though. Like if you
yeah,
if you
yeah,
hop into a Hyundai
and
Ioniq
Kia.
right now, and your last experience with Hyundai was like a 2011 Hyundai Santa Fe, it's not even the same company anymore. It's
Yeah,
really, really
and
incredible.
Kia just won like a dozen awards for the EV9 because it's such a
As
hit.
they
It
should.
got on Popular Science's 50 most innovative 50 best innovations of 2023. It's like they called it an innovation. But
Let's
it's
put 3 rows of chairs in an electric car
well,
and see
there's
what
actually
happens.
like there's several like I think something like 10 features of that they highlighted as being, you know, stand out. But yeah, and if you look at the losers, you have Fiat, Dodge, Jeep, Nissan, Infinity.
But so this is by brand, not by group.
These are by brand.
Yeah. So Jeep sales are down 40% since 2019. Holy poop. That is bad.
Yeah, that is bad. And we'll see Nissan and Infinity are having a bit of a bounce back, but they're still down 33%. But Fiat and Dodge, who would why I don't like Dodge. I can't stand my wife and I, we hate Dodge. Every time we see a Dodge, we're like, this is the ugliest car. But happily, a lot of people agree with us. Fiat is basically like practically kicked out of the US market. I don't see how much longer it lasts here. But we should just take a note to say, hey, if you're listening, you appreciate these original analyses, reports, and commentary. 15 years in my case of coverage, and Joe's like 25 or 35 years in the
97,
industry.
25 years.
Then
26 next year.
be sure to smash that like and subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified of new videos, and definitely help support us if you can anywhere you are listening or
Yeah,
watching
for sure.
or reading. So this is the volume change. We did that. So comparing to last year is the last thing that we're going to look at. So if you compare to last year instead of 2019, there's only a few brands that are down. Fiat is still, I'm telling you, Fiat's like got to pull out of this market soon. They bleed sales every quarter.
But all of those are Stellantis brands.
Dodge, Alpha, yeah, maybe Stellantis is just starving and ignoring the U.S. market while it does superbly in Europe, with its Citroen, Peugeot, all these brands that we don't even have. Alfa Romeo, Volkswagen is down 1%, but
yeah.
But if you look at the leaders, you've got Rivian, which grew from almost nothing. Chrysler, Chrysler.
Yeah,
Chrysler's
I don't
up
understand.
almost 100% compared to last year. Buick, Honda, Volvo.
When you only sold 17 cars and you jump up to 34, you can make those kind of jumps.
I think the EV highlights here are Rivian growing strong, but it's still pretty niche brand. And Tesla is way down there at number 10, I think. Yeah, 10th at 22% growth. So that's far off of the 50% growth they are aiming for each, on average each year. So it's not going to be every year, but the average.
Yep.
I don't see that happen. We talked about that enough. We don't need to talk about it again. Tesla's up 29,000 sales. Rivian's up well, Elusive's up 59. Rivian's up 9,000. So still, you know, Tesla's still growing a lot more by volume. Yeah, that's it for those sales reports. We have a lot more to talk about, but
well, this is really interesting. So I want to really key in on this before
we're gonna
we
have to
move
punt
on.
some stuff. But yeah.
Oh, we'll punt some stuff. That's okay. It's the holidays. Don't worry about it. This is really interesting because, you know, we talked about price parity a couple of episodes ago and how the cost of going electric, the premium of going electric versus internal combustion has shrunk. And in some cases, it's shrunk to nearly zero with the discounts available from the dealership, with the cash on the hood that I guess some of these dealers are able to dig into and get, you know, get the price down. And with federal and state incentives, there was a Ford F-150 Lightning electric truck buyer who was able to take their car home or their truck home for $37,000, which is, I think, quite a bit lower than a comparable, a comparable F-150 internal combustion vehicle. If you try to price one of those out for under 40 grand, it's really tough. So I think, price parity is not here for everyone, but I think there's a couple of makes and models out there where price parity is the new reality. And I think that's going to help a lot of people get into EVs.
And this was Colorado, which has a $5,000 EV tax rebate. The state program also gives a dealer $6,000 for this, and the dealer gave a discount of $4,000 on the truck. Then he's got the $7,500 EV tax credit. So all of that combined brought a truck down from $60,000 to $37,000. Huge win. There's a similar deal in New Jersey with Tesla. Like this guy laid out that if you take off the $7,500 federal tax credit, the $4,000 New Jersey tax credit, a $3,000 Uber discount that you can get. Uber's partnering with Tesla now to push this.
Yeah.
And it's apparently you have to make 100 trips, but still do 100 trips for Uber and you got a $3,000 discount. And a $1,000 Cybertruck reservation, which Tesla's offering $1,000 off if you have a Cybertruck reservation. Then he got it down to $19,590 for a brand new Tesla Model 3 rear-wheel drive.
That's wild. Keep in mind, there are zero brand new internal combustion vehicles that you can buy in the United States currently for less than $20,000. The Mitsubishi Mirage was the last one. And as of the 2024 model year, its lowest starting price is over $20,000. So that would theoretically make that Tesla Model 3 the least expensive new car you could buy. Zachary, you seem very obsessed with Michelob Ultra today. What's going on there?
Yeah, this Spanish website that we were going to talk about, we're not going to do it now. We have to go, but we'll leave that for next time. But they put this ad over the whole screen. I can't even close it out. But I wanted to finish with the Hyundai Kia, which they've won a bunch of awards. So we'll just roll through some. Like their innovation and leadership is getting them award after award. They got a fatherly, family-friendly award for the Ioniq 6. They got a Top Gear Car of the Year award for the Ioniq 5N. This sporty Ioniq. I'm sure Joe must love this since you have the normal one and you're into that kind of thing. And they got Family Car of the Year from Fatherly for the EV9. And as I said earlier, the EV9 also got one of the greatest innovations of 2023 from Popular Science. And it also got Car of the Year from Driving Electric in the UK. And it's got Performance Car of the Year from Scotland, Scottish Motoring Writers Association. So just racking up awards. Oh, that's the EV6. So just racking up awards, and they fully deserve it. So I think, ending on a strong note here for Hyundai and Kia.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what they bring to the CES show in January. I think they're going to bring some more affordable, lower priced EVs. And they're going to talk a little bit more about their infotainment system and kind of that ecosystem of digital accessibility. There is a real battle happening in the automotive and the technology world about who owns your data, who gets to control your data. General Motors, I think, I'll be honest with you, I think Mary Barra is going to be sent home very soon. I think this idea that you can't use CarPlay or Android Auto in a General Motors vehicle, that is, and I'll go on record here, that is probably the dumbest corporate decision of the 2020s. And I can't imagine that that's going to last. So sell your GM stock now.
Well, that's our show. And yeah, congrats to all the winners. Merry
All right,
Christmas.
guys, we'll talk to you soon.
Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. Yes. Cheers.